again, and thank you very much for coming. I think we can start, and I'm glad to see that it's being videoed. Good for Why Texas. Good morning. So, everyone, my name is Kathleen Otto. I am the CEO of North Texas Foundation, which is the trade organization, bioscience and healthcare innovation, if you don't know, in our great state that covers the north region of our state, and that is Lubbock to Tyler, Wichita Falls to Waco, and everything in between. So we have a pretty big region, and we're really representative of the bioscience and healthcare innovation industry. And it's my pleasure to welcome you all here today, and thank you for joining this panel discussion on how science and technology will transform mankind. That's really a big title. I don't know if we're going to be able to accomplish it in the short time that we have, but many of you may already know or may not know that Texas stands at the forefront of innovation in science and technology. And this panel represents leadership in education, healthcare, and public policy from around the state. Together today, we're just going to explore these sectors and how these sectors are working in tandem to shape a transformative future for all of us. This is also a great opportunity, and I thank Why Texas for this opportunity to tell our story, because a lot of people don't know that Texas really rings the bell when it comes to innovation and in our field, life sciences. So this story is being written every day by this representative group, and the panel is a feature in the story, a chapter, and I look forward to diving into it with all of you today. So we are going to save some time for questions and answers, but please let me introduce you to our esteemed panel. First, on my far right is Dr. Christina Robinson. She's the Executive Director of Work-Based Learning and Industry Partnerships, Houston Community College. Thanks for coming up here for this event. And then we have Dr. David Foster, CEO of Island Pharmaceutical, a serial entrepreneur, and one of our North Texas board members, actually a founder of North Texas. And then we have Dr. John Goodman, president of the Goodman Institute for Public Policy Research. And our objective today is really to facilitate a discussion exploring Texas's leadership. I see some friends in the audience, hello, in science and technology, and emphasizing the roles, similar to the last panel, emphasizing the roles in education, healthcare innovation, and public policy, and how they drive transformative advancements. So, Christina, may I ask you to introduce yourself briefly, and then we'll go through it, and then I have some questions.
Well, good morning, everyone. It's an honor and a privilege to be here today, getting to talk to my love, which is business and innovation. I currently oversee the Gulf Coast Region Apprenticeship Hub, as well as our HCC Talent Solutions team and community learning. What that means is we offer turnkey solutions to industry, be it if they need a talent pipeline, if they need training, or if they need funding to make all of those two things happen. So we really package that, offer the solution for the community, and in the Gulf Coast right now we have roughly 6,000 apprentices across the region that roll up under my umbrella, and it's all about partnership. So thank you for having us.
Yes, Dave.
Thanks, everyone, for being here. Ed, thank you for the invitation. It's nice to see you. Is this on? The microphone's on? Yeah. So I'm David Foster, as Kathleen said, and I'm thrilled to be here. I really love to get in front of people and talk about Texas, about life sciences, and why I think this is the place to be. And I'll tell you more about that throughout the presentation. But yeah, by training, I'm a patent attorney. I then shifted to the client side, which I really enjoy a lot. I've started a few different companies. My current company is called Island Pharmaceuticals, which I'll tell you about more as we get into the presentation. But as Kathleen said, I'm also one of the 3 co-founders of North Texas, which is an organization doing great work. I'm incredibly incredibly proud of the work that has been done, and in particular since Kathleen took over as CEO, it's been a rocket ship and a lot of fun to watch. So anyway, I'm grateful to be here. Thank you all for your time.
Dr. Goodman, go ahead.
Yes, I'm John Goodman. I'm a think tank guy. Our think tank gave you the health savings accounts, Roth IRAs, and with the Brookings Institution, automatic enrollment in 401k plans, and other things. Right now, I'm focused at the national level on the intersection of the tax bill and DOGE. And I'm trying to convince Republicans on the House Budget Committee that they shouldn't try to pay for the tax bill by cutting everything, including Medicaid and food stamps. Instead, they should look to the DOGE folks to reform our entitlement programs and make them better for the people who depend upon them and save money at the same time. And at the state level, I'm mainly focused on national policy, but at the state level, there are two things that I've encouraged folks in Austin to do. One is called reference pricing, and I'll explain that a little bit later. But it'll save 10% of healthcare costs for state employees and teachers. And then once we get the state doing it, then all the private employers will piggyback on that. So it's going to be of interest to every employer in Texas. And the other big thing for me is letting nurses practice to the top of their training. We're one of the worst states in the nation on this. And we need nurses to be able to go out to rural areas and do what they've been trained to do without being here in Dallas paying a doctor $50,000 to supervise them, which she doesn't need. And so that's what I've been involved in.
And it's great to have you here, sir, because the nation needs you. So thank you. So first question will go to Dr. Robinson. And Dr. Robinson, how is Houston Community College preparing students to meet the evolving demands of the science and technology industry and our sectors? You mentioned 6,000 apprentices. That's
right.
pretty.
So really, it's customer focused or client focused, right? So companies, you mentioned biotech. That's a hot area in our market. Companies come to us and they're like, individuals need these skills. And so we're working with students recently. I'm not sure if you've heard of the term apprenticeship degree. It's another kind of a degree. Individuals who may or may not be going the traditional route, they want to go the skill route, right? Or route, depending on where you're from. But with that being said, it's really a skill-focused curriculum. So individuals are coming out with specialized certificates. You heard earlier about the need for nurses. Now we can place individuals on site into a hospital while they're in training. So it's that earn while you learn kind of format. And they're getting certified while they're already in the hospital. So rather than clients hiring individuals with little to no experience and then trying to train them on the job, it's really a partnership between the client and HCC or whatever college of choice it might be, or potentially an intermediary, to say, if you needed to hire people tomorrow, what are the top 5 skills you want them to know? And a perfect example of this would be in certified nurse aides or patient care techs. They're getting hired with no training. And then they're being trained on the job on, for example, how to draw blood. Well, everybody might have a different way of doing that, but maybe there's a right way to do that, and maybe we need to teach them that right way to do that so that when you go in, that person can do it the right way. So we're really working with those hospitals, building everything from your baseline certified nurse aide to nursing leadership. So an individual, once again, can come in and not necessarily take a full bachelor's degree, which we do offer those, but they could just go the certificate route and say, I know if I get this certificate, I can go into an organization or be placed in an organization and then continue my education from there versus thinking, oh, I need to get my degree and then go to work, right? So I like to say, when we become community colleges, our job is to place people in careers. That should be the first thing we want to do, and then we get them educated through the process. So that's a little bit about how we're doing it, and we're coaching them that, skill-based hiring is really where things are moving, and so it's okay to take a job that is skill-based. And many of them, and of those 6,000, I'll just say the bulk of them are in trades. And we, over the last several years, about last 3 years, with the hub, the Gulf Coast Region Hub, we have expanded those, everything from AI to data analytics to GIS to healthcare is exploding right now. So I always say, if you think it, we can ink it, so we will put it on paper and make it happen.
Terrific. Thank you. So, David, I'm going to ask you a question as well, and then we'll come back to you, Christina, because the audience might have some questions, but also I have some questions. Okay. So, David, I should say, Dr. Foster, can you share insights into Island Pharmaceuticals' approach to repurposing drugs for viral infections and its potential global impact, and try to mix that in with the future of R&D in these advanced technologies in North Texas?
Yeah, no, I'm happy to tell you about Island Pharmaceuticals and what we're doing. So my co-founder and I became very interested in mosquito-borne viruses in 2016. My co-founder happened to live in Puerto Rico. He and his wife got ready to have a baby, and Zika broke out. And he called me and he said, one, we're moving off the island. We cannot stay here. We're scared to death of Zika. If you don't recall, Zika can cause problems with the babies from moms who are infected. And then he called me back after they moved to Chicago and said, we have completely underestimated the problem with mosquito-borne viruses. It's a huge unmet medical need. And when you look around and you look at dengue, Zika, West Nile, yellow fever, there's really no vaccines that are effective. Yellow fever, maybe. It's a hot vaccine. It's not very pleasant. But for dengue, there's nothing. For Zika, there's nothing. There's no small molecules. We saw the benefit of small molecules during COVID, where you had a vaccine strategy and you had a small molecule strategy to attack COVID. There's none of that for these mosquito-borne viruses. So we began looking for what we thought for small molecules as the strategy we thought would be the right way to go. And importantly, we didn't want to be an early stage R&D company. We wanted to be focused on being in clinical trials, seeing if we could see if this drug works. And so, to your question, Kathleen, we focused on our repurposing strategy. And by that, I mean, we looked at molecules that have already been in clinical trials. They may have been in clinical trials for other indications, but we thought it was really important that we get a molecule that's already had demonstrated safety in whatever indication. And so we did. We began looking for molecules. We looked at thousands of molecules, the good old-fashioned way by research and PubMed and looking through papers. You would do it through AI and AI screening today. There's a lot of that going on. But we found some papers describing a molecule, and as it turns out, it fit exactly what we were looking for. It was a molecule that J&J developed about 30 years ago. It was initially developed as a cancer therapeutic. It's been in thousands of people. It's been in 40-plus clinical trials. It has a very well-known safety profile, but it's never been approved. It's just not been an effective cancer therapy. But we knew that we had data showing that it was a very effective antiviral molecule, at least in animal models. So fast forward, long story short, we ultimately licensed that molecule because, I'll tell you the story because I'm a patent attorney, the core composition of matter IP on this molecule had long since expired, so we have method of use IP, which is fine, and we have some other strategies for expanding that. But I'm happy to say we licensed that molecule. We're a virtual company. We talked about the benefits of being a virtual company. We hire consultants to help us with manufacturing, with regulatory, with clinical trials, clinical trial monitoring. When I hear you talk about all of the people coming to you and the different apprentices and skills that you need to go through the drug development process, it's huge. Basic R&D is just the tip of the iceberg. There's so much more. So I'm happy to say that we have finished dosing in our phase 2 clinical trial just last week. We'll have data coming out that study within the next probably 6 to 8 weeks. It's actually very, very fast. So this is a dengue clinical trial. We'll have data in a dengue clinical trial in probably a couple of months. So exciting times for us.
Thank you, David. Okay, Dr. Goodman, how do you envision public policy evolving to support innovations in science and technology?
Let me briefly describe what happened in California. CalPERS is the insurance plan that covers all California employees, their dependents, their retirees. It's the largest health insurance plan in the whole country. And Anthem was the insurer. And they looked at hip and knee replacements, and the cost varied from $15,000 to over $100,000 across the state of California. So with the permission of the state, Anthem sends a letter to all the enrollees and says, here are 40 hospitals, and if you go get your knee replacement or hip replacement at one of these 40 hospitals, you don't have to pay anything. But you can go to other hospitals if you like. But if you do, we're only going to pay $30,000. And so I don't know if you all know much about how insurance companies argue with hospitals constantly, and it goes back and forth, and phone calls and letters and so forth. In this case, there was not a single phone call, not a single letter. They just told the enrollees, you only have $30,000 to spend. And within 2 years, the average out-of-network cost of a knee or hip replacement across the whole state of California was below $30,000. So that is called reference pricing, and it shows how powerful consumers are when they know they only have so much money to spend, and the hospital learns it too. So I've talked to the Lieutenant Governor about this, I've testified on it, and I'd like to see us do this in Austin. Now the reason we need to start with the state employees, because that's a huge insurance plan. If a small company tried to do this, the hospital will tell you to go away. So we need to start with somebody big that the hospital can't reject. And then once they do that, and by the way, I've been over to Blue Cross to talk to them about this because I didn't want them to oppose this. And they haven't exactly said they're totally on board, but they're listening. But that, if we do that in Texas, we'll cut costs in Austin by 10%. And that's with not being very aggressive. We were more aggressive about it. We could do better than that. Once the state does something like that, then the private employers can piggyback on what the state is doing, and the entire state will benefit. Hospital pricing right now is a mess, and it is incomprehensible, and it's actually embarrassing. But even though there was this Trump executive order that says they have to be transparent about their prices, they're not transparent, and they do not compete on price.
Well, thank you, sir, and that is going to make a big difference, and there are a number of Texas people who really care about changing the paradigm of healthcare cost and access, and Mark Cuban is one of them. I'm sure you're speaking with him all the time. But one of the things that we want to understand is that how does that trickle down into advancing technology? That's what I'd like to do now, is open up this discussion and say, okay, how does public policy, how does what, Christina, you're doing, and David, you have a long history in advancing technology and innovation. How does public policy and how does what you do, Christine, really advance technology and innovation?
Well, I'll mention, I don't know how many of you all are aware, but House Bill 8 is a hot topic right now for colleges. About 2 years ago, the state legislature passed a bill saying that the funding of colleges would be different. In order to get funded in the past, we were funded on contact hours, meaning if you're sitting there, we got paid. Whereas now we're funded on completion, meaning they have to have a credential, meaning a completed certificate that leads to a work-based job, or complete 12 credits, or complete an associate's degree or a degree. So with that, the entire college, universities across the board, we'll say, have really shifted the paradigm on how we operate, right? Because if you get paid based on driving innovation or driving completions, then we look at, well, what sectors are those that we're going to be able to drive the most completions? IT, healthcare, manufacturing, even automotive is big. For us, logistics is huge, right? So we really look at, hey, what are the programs that maybe aren't so hot, meaning the enrollments aren't there, but more importantly, people aren't hiring those people, right? So we really have had to rethink how we operate from a driving completion perspective. And so meeting with businesses saying, hey, what does your outlook look like in the next 3 years? Well, industrial maintenance, which I know when I first started placing industrial maintenance techs, I was like, oh, industrial maintenance techs, they fix washers, dryers? No, like these guys are doing AI on supply chain tracks. You know, there's all kinds of things that they're doing. So we're really integrating technology into what used to be standard trade roles. And that goes for so many different positions across the board. So as we shift, you know, we have to be innovative. Specifically, more and more companies are saying we want a course that focuses on AI for our leaders, or how to maximize AI within our business, because they know and we know kids today are all using it, but how do we leverage that in order to be more effective in industry? It's okay to use it, but how do we use it more effectively? So from an innovation perspective, we're integrating those kinds of things into the education and then focusing on the industries that we know are going to drive growth. In this House Bill 8, it's all focused on high demand occupations. And I want to say there's probably 30 of them, maybe a few more because they're kind of buckets. But with that being said, you know, how do we fit this position into a high demand, high growth occupation? Because the state says if it falls in this bucket, we're going to give you a bunch of money. So it's really tricky how it all works. But what you've seen across the state in the last 2 years is this massive shift for colleges saying we are going to focus on those things that give back into the employers that we partner with.
Okay, that's wonderful. Thank you.
One of the things that I look at is, again, looking at early stage technologies a lot of time, looking at startup companies, which is sort of the world where I live. One of the things I think Texas has done remarkably well is with CPRIT. CPRIT is the Cancer Prevention Research Institute of Texas. It started as a $3 billion fund. It's now a $6 billion fund, a 20-year effort to support R&D in cancer research and drug development. It goes to starting companies, to funding mid-stage companies, to recruiting companies to Texas, to recruiting faculty, to UT Southwestern, to MD Anderson. It's had an enormous impact. I think it may now be the second largest cancer fund in the world. Texas has done a remarkable job there, and it's been supported year after year. Through the legislation. So another thing that I think, and we've talked about this before, is could we do more? Could Texas do more? Does it have to be limited to cancer? There's many other areas where we could, there's a tremendous need for additional research. I think a brain strategy might be, you know, could we pursue something associated with that, with neurological problems and psychiatric diseases and things like that? Huge unmet medical need, and I would love to see Texas do something more in that area. Changing the subject a little bit, and some of the things you talked about too is different jobs and what do people need. And I think that so many times we don't really know what we in the academic world don't necessarily know what employers want. And one of the policies or groups, not policies, that Bio North Texas has put together is the BIANT organization. And this is really an alliance of industries coming together, working with academics so that they can have the conversation about what do we really need. And I think that's a really important effort. Kathleen, I don't know if you want to speak any more to BIANT, but I think it's been very, very powerful, and you're getting a lot of input.
So I'll just say that it is a a federal grant that was provided to Dallas College. We're sitting here in Dallas College, so it's really great to talk about it. That was almost $9 million, and it is covers 16 counties here in the north, and it is retraining or training people who don't have a college education but want to get into our industry. Our industry is a high-paying industry. It's a high-quality industry, and these entry-level positions that we are training for is a pathway for greater economic stability, et cetera, for these populations that might be working at McDonald's or Amazon or frankly on the couch. So we are working hard with many counties, and primarily Dallas County and Fort Worth County, to train up, and I think we have through Dallas College and other local, Tarrant County, Collin County, et cetera. We've put together over 300, and I think they're close to 400 now, so this is something that we're very proud of. And now we'll turn it over to you, sir.
Well, within the third-party payer system, and by that I mean in any healthcare market where Medicare is paying, or Blue Cross, or an employer, I think it is probably not an exaggeration to say that all the technological innovation has been geared at how do we get more money out of Medicare, or Blue Cross, or employer. And so you get computer programs that tell you how to maximize against payment formulas. And there's been a lot of innovation, and that's been the focus. There's been no innovation in helping patients. So there's no app out there that can tell you if you need a knee replacement, what it would cost you at the 50 or so hospitals within DFW, or what their quality ratings are. By quality, I mean what's their infection rate, what's their readmission rate, what's their mortality rate. You don't know any of that. So there's been no patient-friendly innovation within that system. Outside the third-party payer system, we got Teladoc, which started telling people, well, you can talk to a doctor on the phone, and they now have 20 million people signed up for that. And now the third parties are paying Teladoc, but they didn't in the beginning. And we have here in the Dallas area one of the leading companies in the country for direct primary care that helps employers help employees to sign up for a doctor that provides all primary care for a monthly fee. And that monthly fee is typically very low, like $50 a month for a mother, $10 for a child. And none of this fee-for-service stuff that all the other payers are paying attention to. So I think there's a great opportunity to have a consumer-oriented healthcare system, and I think there is technology, no doubt, that would help with that, but it's been slow coming.
That's a great idea. Wonderful. Thank you so much, sir. Okay, one last question, because we got the 2-minute warning, but we started late, so I'm going to run over a little. So for all panelists, if you could just tell me what excites you most about the future of Texas in the healthcare, bioscience, and innovation sectors.
Well, I think Texas has one of the largest medical centers in the country, right? And we have very forward-thinking individuals. I like to think Texans get things done, right? And so I think as we get better at collaborating, so for example, you mentioned this $9 million grant that you all are working on, how do we connect the dots so that we're expanding that across the state? We're integrating those conversations. I know Texas Workforce Commission gives us the opportunity to build consortiums so we can up that funding very quickly from $500,000 up to $1.5 million, right? So if we can get more people working together, driving towards whatever that might be. I mean, Texas has so much funding at the fingertips right now, not federal funding, state funding that is available and ready to be spent. But the only way that can happen is if we're putting the right people together, not just advisory meetings, but actually doers, right? That want to get people hired, get people trained, and get them placed into industry. And I think So many companies are moving to Houston right now, or Texas. I'll say Texas because we're meeting with them every week. And it's just implementing and executing and pulling in the right partners to make that happen.
So there's so much that I'm excited about in Texas, and you nailed it straight out of the gate. It's technology, right? I mean, you have MD Anderson, you have all the Texas Medical Center, we have UT Southwestern, Texas A&M, Baylor College of Medicine. There's amazing technology in this area, and to your point, Texans are doers, and they're risk takers. And there's financing that's available here. It is a wonderful time to be doing life science and biotechnology in Texas. I am ecstatic when I look at where we were. When I spent 12 years in California and I moved back to Dallas about 15 years ago. And at the time, we were beginning an upswing. This was when we started Bio North Texas. We've since seen Pegasus Park come online. We've seen biolabs come online in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Similar things in Houston with J Labs and TMC, everything that's going on down there. So there's a real recognition